to Miss Smart Muses. Welcome to Miss Smart Muses, where we muse upon what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Well, today we're going to talk about something that makes me very, very happy. It is the Pirates of the Caribbean. The Pirates of the Caribbean here on Miss Martin Muses. And we are joined once again at the Buttocks Crack of Dawn with Lady Gravemaster.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's so 600, and that stands for oh my god, it's early.
I mean, the sun's been up for about 17 minutes, so there's that.
Oh, okay, it's not up for me at all. Gee whiz, you must be in a well. Never mind. And we have let's all dox each other now.
Yes.
And all the way from Norway, all the way from Norway in the higher latitudes, where it is always sunlight and never nighttime. It is the one, the only Steve Kenobi.
Hi.
Hi.
It's raining today a little bit.
Oh, you beat me to the future report. Okay, it's raining. Okay, yeah. We know. So that's your weather forecast. But Stiga, how's the future otherwise?
I don't know. It's screwed up.
Okay, it's screwed up. Well, that's good news. You see, nowadays that's good news.
Nothing has changed. It's just
all this has happened before, and it will happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, consistently screwed up. I like consistency, but I would prefer consistency of not crazy.
There is consistency in the sense that people don't learn from history. So,
sure.
Oh, that's true. And never underestimate the stupidity of humanity. Hello, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. And all of you who will be watching and reading and all that kind of other fun stuff. Thank you. Well, I want to talk about, here at the Fantasy Tavern, we talk about, for lack of a better word, fantasy. And one of the things that makes things fantasy rather than just like a normal story is the fantastical, the supernatural entering into our world, or with our characters are set in a fantasy world. Now, the Pirates of the Caribbean is set in our world, but there is, of course, ghosts and zombies and voodoo and raising from the dead, not in a good way kind of scenarios. But I wanted to ask the panel, what is your experience with the Pirates of the Caribbean? I'm going to start with Steve on this one. Like, how did you first hear about it, and when did you watch it, the ride, any of that?
Well, when I first watched it, I was like, this is a ripoff of the Monkey Island game. Secret of Monkey Island. It's almost the same story. Step by step. And I looked into it, and sure as hell, the guy who wrote the script for Pirates of the Caribbean wrote the script for a canceled Monkey Island movie from the 90s. So Disney has been ripping off Lucasfilm before they even bought it. But I still enjoyed the movie. It was great fun.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, I've only just recently started playing Monkey Island. I finished the first one, and I'm now in the second one. And yeah, a lot of the elements from the movies you will find popping up.
Yeah, it's basically, the game is a guy wants to be a pirate. He falls in love with a female governor. Governor gets kidnapped by ghost pirates, and he has to use voodoo to find an island where the ghost pirates are keeping her.
Yeah, and
same thing.
Yeah, and then the second one, the voodoo lady lives in a swamp thing, and like this little tree house in the swamp.
Yeah, and the scene with the dog in the prison holding the key, and they have to use a bone to try and get him to come close so they could get the key. That's from the game too.
Yeah. But let me be fair. That originally was in the ride. And the ride was before that. But yes, that's also in the game. Is
and in the third movie, you have basically a pirate town built on shipwrecks. That's from the second game.
That too. Yep. loads of things like there. So it's the origins of Steeg's origins with the Pirates of the Caribbean. How about you, Lady Greymaster? How did you first get into it?
I think I was like 10 when the first movie came out. And I had never been to like Disney World or Disneyland. I'd never really been out of the north. Excuse me, one sec. Oh, pardon me. Thank you. I'd never really been out of the north of the U.S. Like I'd been to Canada, I'd been to Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana. And that was pretty much like my scope of life. And so I'd never been to Disney World. I didn't know that there was a ride. I didn't know it was a ride actually until I went with my best friend in the movie theater. And she was like, yeah, it's a movie based off of a ride. And I looked at her and I said, that's going to be the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. Mm-hmm. And then I went in and I absolutely freaking loved it. So, I went because when did this come out? 2002. The first one came out in 2002.
I think so, or definitely around that time. I can double check the exact date.
Because, back then, movies were still, even bad movies of the early 2000s are better than what they are saying are great movies right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I knew I was going to be in for fun because I was like, oh, it's Disney. Like, because it had to be after 2001 because I already knew who Orlando Bloom was because of
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So a big push for me to go see it was because he was in it. But then I saw him on the poster and I'm like, that's not Legolas because, of course, he's got brown hair and brown eyes. And then I was like, oh, no, that is him.
Yep. Yeah, I think in many ways that was a lot of people's experience with the movie, being very surprised at how good it actually was. My first experience was on the ride as a little girl. The first time I went to Disney World, I was about 4 or 5. I still remember being there because I lost one of those stupid balloons, you get with the helium. And my mom had said, you should have tied it around your wrist. And I didn't want to. And then I lost it. But I went on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride several times. I loved it. And every time thereafter, when I would go to Disney World, I thought it was great. My only big pet peeve about the success of the Pirates of the Caribbean movie was they changed the ride, which was a disgrace. The ride sucks now, in my humble opinion. I mean, that's just not the way the ride was supposed to be. The ride was so much more fun. But just the part where you go in and you're in the pirate town and you hear the yo-ho yo-ho song and all the pirates everywhere, and like Steve was talking about with the doggy and the man chasing the women and then the women turning around and chasing them, all of that was just so much fun. So I went to see the movie then with my roommate at the time. We used to always go to movies on Sunday afternoon, and we were just like, damn, that was a good movie. It really, really was. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that made the movie such a phenomenon was Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. That was a revelation. None of us had ever seen him do that kind of a role before. And the fact that it was so funny and it was so quirky that it became the role he's synonymous with now. Most people, when they think of Johnny Depp, they think of Jack Sparrow. What were your impressions of Jack Sparrow, Lady Greymaster?
I thought he was hilarious and a drunk, and I was not wrong apparently. But I was like, nobody can be this drunk and function all the time. Like he has got to be pretend and I meant the character obviously. Like I was like this is just, nobody can function that inebriated.
Oh, you were young then, right? You said you were about
Yeah.
10
I was
or
like 10 or 11.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I've got a story for you.
And I was like, oh, no, I guess people can actually kind of function that intoxicated. But there were moments in the movie where I was like, see, he's got to be like, some of it is definitely a ploy because like when he saves Elizabeth and just like cuts off her corset, like it was such a it's such a simple answer, but none of the men who are on the dock would have ever thought of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like he just, especially early on, like after he's in the jail cell or whatever, he's just got, he has these moments where you're like, clearly he isn't as dumb as he's pretending to be, but why is he pretending to be dumb?
Yeah.
So it was intriguing.
Yeah, he was surrounded by idiots. And we have an elf in the house. We just said hello to Lady Toriel, and Rennie A is here. Hello, hello.
Good morning,
And thank you,
ladies.
Damien. Yeah, and everything about him was incredibly clever, and some of his great one-liners, like when the Commodore was like, "You're the worst pirate I've ever heard of," and he's like, "But you have heard of me."
Yep.
Just and the of course. Bush is saying, "Why is there all the rum gone?" That was just hysterical. She's just going on and on. He's like, "But why is all the rum gone?" Steve, what were your impressions of Jack Sparrow?
Well, I thought he was excellent in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gravy said, you can tell that he's putting on a bit of a show too, because he actually is very competent in the first movie.
Yeah.
But I think later on they went overboard with the slapstick. So the character turned a little bit into kind of like a clown, and the competence element started to fade away, right?
Yeah.
But early on, he was, in my opinion, better written.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of that was also, it was more spontaneous. A lot of it was what he brought to the role and to the script. And I think later they tried to tailor the script to what he had created. And it became
I think it tends to happen with a lot of comedies too. They listen for the laughs, right? And then they try to outdo the laughs in the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's what happened. I still like the other movies though. Don't get me wrong, but I thought Jack Sparrow got a bit derailed in slapstick after a while.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't just Johnny Depp that made it all great, even though I just kind of said it was. It was also the ensemble cast nature, especially of the first one, with you had Elizabeth Swann who was a strong woman before strong women were cool. It was never quite the Mary Sue situation, though she would be kind of annoying. They also had other characters that would counter her in that, and then you had, of course, Legolas. And I remember going. That was the first role I'd seen him when he was not Legolas.
He was actually very good in these movies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually really pleasantly surprised with his character. But I feel like I really hate how he became Davy Jones. And like
that part of it sucked.
They didn't break the curse. I was like,
Davy Jones, though, the Davy Jones character is grossly underrated.
Yes.
Because that is a superb, fleshed out movie villain.
Yes, it is very, very good. I just wish, like, I don't know, because the only thing I have to go off of is headcanon, really. But I was like, because when he shows up on the shore and she's got their son and everything, I'm like, okay, so is the curse broken? Is it not broken? Does he get one day with them and then it's another 10 years? I was like, because I would think.
It is, because
Well,
you see it in the after the fourth or fifth movie at the end credits scene.
yeah, no, I know. Like, it's the end credit scene where he shows up and he gets to meet his son. Wait, which? Because that's the third one. I thought the curse broke though.
In the last one, it did, and he was all grown up. The son was all grown up, and everything.
Yeah,
And
okay.
they had this big, great reunion. And Keira Knightley did the Sound of Music thing where she's running over the hill.
Maybe I've not seen the last one. How
Oh my
many
gosh,
are there?
girl?
I thought I'd watched them all.
That was the best part of the whole movie. I mean, the rest of the movie I could care less about. I usually just watch the last 5 minutes.
Wait, how many
He
pirates?
will come back and then get a reunion.
Yeah, the fifth one has Barbossa's daughter in it. She was actually cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the last one that I saw. I thought that was the last one. There's 6 of them. Holy crap! I'm missing an entire Pirates movie.
Okay, as Lady Gravemaster signs off to go watch it.
Right? I was like, wait a minute.
I thought it was 5.
Okay, everybody Google.
Okay, no, there are 5.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know where the 6th
2, 3,
came from.
4. Because the last one that I watched was the one with Penelope Cruz in it.
Oh, that's number 4.
Yeah.
The next one has Javier Bardem playing the villain.
I'm missing an entire Pirates movie.
Oh, girl, because that had a great ending. I mean, but I do agree with Steve that herself was good at it. And Will's son was always great. Cybot says that something really good here. I always enjoy the Black Pearl could be a good standalone story, a good setup for a trilogy. Yeah, I actually have an unpopular opinion that I would have been very happy if we'd have never had any sequels, because you can see the first movie and it's perfect, absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with that first movie, and then the second and third, especially the third, have some flaws in it. We're starting to see some cracks, and then of course later we've got some issues where you just kind of pick different moments or different characters and enjoy them. And what I thought was so perfect about the first one was, well, for one thing, you had an amazing ensemble cast. You had the score, amazing score. It was like being a kid again. You had the swashbuckling pirate scenes, you had the funny stuff, you had the romance, you had the walking of the plank. I mean, everything that makes a pirate story good. And then at the end, the way they were singing, it ended with him just going yo ho, and then that score, the He's a Pirate score, which is just such a swashbuckling moment.
The
also,
first one was
his introduction.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
Just sinks into shore.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first time hearing the soundtrack, because see, that was back in the day where you just couldn't go online and just get the soundtrack on like High Seas or even on Amazon. So that was when I first heard that theme. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the first one too was much more of like an adventure action story as opposed to what the other ones kind of became.
I think they wanted to do Empire Strikes Back, with Johnny Depp being, whisked away before the third act. Same thing that, with Han Solo.
I don't know, maybe.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Well, and another aspect that was very surprising about the first movie was they didn't have the Commodore, Commodore Norris. He was not the frothing at the mouth British villain. Like at first, you thought that he might have been, but you see that he genuinely has affection for Elizabeth,
Yeah.
and he's willing to let her go at the end when she realizes that he loves that she loves Will, even though she's dumber than a rock. I have an opinion on that as well. But and that he was a man of honor, and even at the end they're like, well, shouldn't we go chase the pirate? And he's like, well, I think we can wait a few days or all that. And the reason why I say I have opinions on it, I actually think that Elizabeth is an idiot. She should have married that man. Oh my gosh. First of all, he's hot as hell. And I will defend that. I will defend that.
Not in that white wig. He's much more he's much more attractive. Is it the second or the third one where he's
the
like,
second one. Oh,
yeah,
holy
he's sitting in the alleyway and he's just like covered in mud and muck. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That I nearly died.
Speaking of covered in mud and muck, Tommy's in the chat.
Oh, well, hello there. Yeah. So I did like him a lot in, well, yeah, he was definitely hot, but also, realistically, the way she kept saying Elizabeth, well, he is a good match and he is a good guy. So it also made it a more difficult choice, if you know what I mean. They allowed us to have intelligence in the first movie. I think maybe that's what I'm thinking, because you're like, he is a good guy. If he was sitting around nowadays being the evil British white man, orange man, bad kind of character they would have made him, it would have been different. But I thought that he was a great character, and I love him, and I want him. But yeah. But Steve, you mentioned a little bit about Davy Jones, and I wanted to go back and kind of maybe revisit some of these villains, and that also goes into the fantasy elements. You said he was like one of the great fleshed out villains. I didn't know if you wanted to expand upon that.
Well, he clearly has motivation, right? He has a background story, and you figure out how he became what he is, right? And it's he's not a classic, I'm evil for the sake of it. Something happened to him, and we get to learn that. And
well, and also the super natural element of him as well, that he's literally a squid, right?
yeah he's and he's taken from old, it's an old myth, isn't it? Davy Jones.
Yeah. Davy Jones Locker.
Yeah. And there's there's a bit of Robert Louis Stevenson in there too, with the black spot. That's straight from Treasure Island. Dead Men Tell No Tales is from there, I think.
Oh.
So.
Oh, cool. Oh, and I stand corrected. It's Norrington. I can't believe I said Norris. My gosh, what kind of a fangirl am I? Yeah.
You're more worried about his face than his name.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's not just his face, but I digress. But yes, I thought it was cool the way he was sitting around playing his organ, like down at the bottom of the sea, and like, ooh, it just had a haunted house aspect of it that I enjoyed with him. So we have Davy Jones. He was, of course, the second one. The first one was the pirate, the ghost pirates, the ones that really were just like in Monkey Island, and he had a lot of great lines, like the whole parlay thing, and they're like guidelines. And that scene where Elizabeth finally realizes that they're dead because the moonlight comes on them, it's like, holy hell, that was actually very creepy. I know Lady Norris, Lady Gravemaster. What do you think of these villains? Like, yeah, Davy Jones, or if you want to talk about the ghosts from the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
I really liked. So the thing is, even in the second one was a little bit more was less grounded. It got a little bit more silly, like Stig was saying, but I really did enjoy the villains. I thought Barbossa and the ghost pirates and their motivation for what they've been doing it made sense. And I liked how, because So all they knew was that Bootstrap Bill had a child. They didn't know if it was a girl or a boy.
Mhm.
And then, of course, Elizabeth lies, and because she thinks that if she tells them she's the governor's daughter, she's going to be a pawn. But then she's like, she gives him Will's last name, and she's like, I'm a maid. And he's like, how did you come about that? And then she's like, I saw this ship 8 years ago on the crossing from England. And they're like, okay, all of the time, like, the timeline fits. She's the right age. Her last name is Turner. She's a maid, and she has the piece on her. So clearly, this is Bootstrap Bill's child, his daughter.
Yeah.
And then, I really enjoyed, because, like I said, in the first movie, you could definitely tell that he wasn't as dumb as he was playing. And at when he takes, like, when he lifts that piece, when Sparrow lifts that piece out of the treasure chest so that he becomes immortal, because he knows that he's gonna have to fight Barbossa.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was really clever. And I think Will was a perfect stand-in for the audience, because we're sitting here, Will watched him, Will saw him take the coin, we saw him take the coin, and like, Will's face is like, what's going on? And then, of course, you figure it out. They start fighting together. And, I agree with you that the first movie was just really perfect, because Sparrow gets his shot from his pistol. And Barbossa's like, 10 years you carry that pistol, and now you waste your shot. And, like, I love that part.
Yeah. Everything came full circle.
Yeah. And then I think with Davy Jones, first of all, his concept, I mean, it was brilliant, because, like, whenever you heard of, like, Davy Jones's locker or something like that, some people would say that he was a sailor with barnacles on his face, or that he was, it was his ghost ship and he was a ghost. So to make him a squid, I mean, I think they did phenomenal at just his concept and his story.
It actually makes a lot of sense, kind of, because,
Yeah.
Davy Jones' locker is the bottom of the sea.
Yep.
That's where you find squids.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I also liked the aspect of that because it made it possible for Will to meet up with his father, because otherwise it would have been a little contrived. Like, how could he meet his dead father? It's like, oh, well, it actually works in world. It wasn't something that they just pulled out of their head, out of their buttocks.
Yeah. And, like, it's really sad. Like, when you're listening to him, Will's dad, and he's like, the ocean, like, you can't die, but you can't move. The ocean is just crushing you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it would be a terrible existence. I'd probably take Davy Jones up on his offer too.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yep.
Sounds like being at the bottom while having sex with Amy Schumer.
Wait. Oh my gosh.
What?
The views and the opinions and the statements of Steve Kenobi do not necessarily represent those of Miss Martin Muses. Holy shit, Steve. Wow. Okay, so we have David Jones. We have, of course, Barbossa, who was a fantastic villain. I think they should not have brought him back to life. I think that kind of sucked. He was better dead, but I understand that they wanted to bring back Jeffrey Rush.
I think they, after the first trilogy, they kind of lost their way with Barbossa. It's like they didn't really know what to do with him.
Yes.
But, great supporting cast, too. Jonathan Pryce as the governor. You had...
yes.
The guy who plays Gibbs was very underrated. And the two... Pintle and Ragetti, the two goofy pirates. Yeah. One of them has a wooden eye.
Oh, yes. Those. Yeah, he was fun. We'll get you a glass eye what actually fits.
Yeah.
No, we got to start looking out for our immortal souls. And he's got the Bible upside down.
Yeah. It's like you get credit for reading it. Dan Blackward said the third movie is really dark. To start with, brings in some levity in the middle and kind of mixes both with the end. Yeah, I think that the third movie was a little bit bloated in some parts, and of course it sucks because it kills my boyfriend at Norrington. That just
I have a major gripe with the third one.
okay. What is it?
Well, they spend 15 to 20 minutes trying to convince all the other pirate captains to fight the navy, right?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the fight happens, there's only 2 ships fighting. So what was the point? The rest are just sitting there, and then they cheer when the Black Pearl wins.
Oh, I guess you're right. I mean, I was not fond of the third one, so
yeah, it's basically just the Black Pearl versus Davy Jones's ship, right? They're fighting in the maelstrom. The other ships don't fight; they're just in the background.
Show of force. I don't know.
Yeah, but you didn't really need all that though. If they're not going to fight anyway, you wasted 20 minutes.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Bush says he thinks that it was dumb making Elizabeth a pirate queen. Yeah, I did not like those aspects of it. Obviously, Lady Greymaster agrees. Why don't you tell us how you feel about that one?
It's as stupid as making Valkyrie the king of Asgard. I'm so over it. I'm so over this BS. Like, what you are effectively saying when you do that is that the title queen is not as high as the title king, and that is not true. They're the like.
If there's no king, the queen is, the title is just as high as the king.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. That what you are effectively saying is that Queen Elizabeth, Cleopatra, Empress Cleopatra, whether it's Queen, Empress, friggin' I can't even think anymore. So you're saying that what you are effectively saying is goddess is lower than God. Like if you're going and I'm talking, if we're talking Greek mythology or Roman mythology or anything like that, you're saying that a goddess is less than a god. I have a few goddesses from Greek and Roman mythology that would have something to say about that.
Oh, there's quite a few in Norse mythology too.
Yeah, and in Norse mythology. You're saying that queen is less than king. I've got several Queen Elizabeth I, Queen Mary, holy crap, now my brain is blanked. So you've got Queen Elizabeth I, you've got Cleopatra, you've got Queen Mary, you've got Catherine the Great. You've got all of these women, freaking Marie Antoinette. Let's be real. Marie Antoinette, as self-indulgent as they both were, she was the one who was actually capable in that relationship. And yes, it led to the French Revolution and all this other stuff, but that was mostly propaganda. That wasn't actually anything that she did. Like, she never said, let them eat cake, because she's not that stupid. But the propagandists didn't care. They hated her. They wanted her and Louis out of the way. And so it was just, it was lie upon lie.
The first, but the French Revolution was the first ministry of truth that we had back in modern times. Yeah, but I had a good question. Yeah, that was definitely it was contrived, but also women and pirates were very, very limited because they even brought that up. I think in the second movie, that women were.
It was Anne Bonny was one.
Yeah,
and there was another one I can't remember though.
Yeah.
They showed up in the Black Sails show, which is superb, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did exist, but it wasn't a lot, and women and pirates didn't mix very well. For one thing, there was a lot of superstition about women that they did bring out in the show, and it frankly was not safe for a woman. I mean, if there would be a woman on a ship, she would be everyone's girlfriend.
Anne Bonny actually avoided the gallows by claiming she's pregnant.
Yep.
Oh, well, that too. Yeah, well done there. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist, but...
No, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
And, like, this is what really irritates me is what used to be the exception, which is what makes you... It doesn't necessarily make you exceptional, but you always have exceptions to the rule. You always do. Annie Oakley is the exception to the Wild Wild West Cowboys. Like, you did not have, I mean, everybody's like, oh, Bonnie and Clyde, but like nobody talks about Annie Oakley anymore. But she was one of the few female Wild West gun tote. Like, she was incredibly capable with a gun. And like, it was impressive as hell. But nowadays, if you were to watch or listen to anybody talk, it was, the West was full of gun-toting women.
Yeah.
The seas were full of female pirates.
Yeah, and I like what you you say about it. It's like that it's that they make the rules, the exceptions the rules rather than vice versa. And there's a reason why the ones that were rather
same thing with the Viking stuff. They're like, they put women in there all
Shield
over the place
maidens
now.
are everywhere now, and I'm like, okay, I'm not trying
shield maidens. You know what they were? They carried the shields for the guys.
Well, and
that's what they did.
Like Viking women knew how to fight because Vikings, they were raiders. So the men would go out and raid, and then to prevent somebody from taking over what they had either just conquered or their like main actual like home, their land, the women of course had to know how to fight. They had to know basic strategy, but 95% of it was all defense.
Yeah, basically they went through boot camp, but they had minimal experience with actual fighting.
Yeah. And so it's just when you have these women who actually like, that is literally like saying, and I know this is gonna hit probably a little bit harder for Miss Martin, but like that is like saying that every young girl is like Joan of Arc.
Yeah.
And we're not. Joan of Arc is exceptional because she, first of all, actually she spoke with God and his angels, and she listened to God and his angels, and then she was martyred for helping free the people of France. Like, she's
no good deed ever goes unpunished.
Amen. Like, she was incredible because of what she was able to do. Not anybody could, if any woman could have done that, then any woman would have.
Exactly.
And it's just bizarre to me. Like, and so now when you've got Elizabeth up there saying that she's king of the pirates, I'm like, or she's the pirate king, I'm like, why is she not the pirate queen? You are legitimately, by doing what you are doing, by making Valkyrie the king of Asgard and by making Elizabeth the pirate king, you are saying that you fundamentally believe that queens are subordinate to kings, that they are not as high, that they are not as powerful, that their rank is lesser. You are admitting to that. And history is full of women who proved that is not the case.
Yeah.
It irritates the ever-loving piss out of me.
Yeah, and this I think is where those, as they get more of these kind of elements into the stories, the quality goes down. Let's move on to Stranger Tides. What do y'all think about that? Steve, what do you think of Stranger Tides?
That's the one where Ian McShane plays Blackbeard, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate that one. I thought it was okay. It was a perfectly fine adventure movie. Yeah. Maybe more Indiana Jones-ish than the other three, because they're looking for a MacGuffin, right?
Yeah, the Fountain of Youth.
I did not like the guy who was basically a stand-in for Orlando Bloom, right? And the mermaid lady. I didn't like those two. I thought they were tagged on, Oh,
the one played by Penelope Cruz, Angelica?
No. Penelope Cruz played a pirate. She was perfectly
she was
awesome.
Pirate.
Oh, okay. My
fault. The mermaid that they took with them because they needed a tear or something.
Oh yeah. You see,
she and her love interest, the guy was only in that movie.
Yeah.
I thought they were. They didn't add much, but Ian McShane was great as Blackbeard, and Sparrow was extra goofy in that one. which was
Mhm.
kind of almost distracting because you just, okay, he's gonna fall over and make a funny face again, right?
Yeah.
But the story was fine, you know.
Hmm.
I believe the title is based on an old pirate novel, isn't it?
I don't know. Everybody Google. I don't have a lot of memories of this one because I only saw it once. I personally was not fond of this one at all, except for elements like what you mentioned. Of course, Ian McShane, he could play anything and be awesome and amazing. But let me see. Yeah, there was a lot of voodoo in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Which
sorry.
technically what it wasn't actually voodoo. But I don't know. I have friends that live down in Nolens. And that was like I remember going and seeing Stranger Tides with them, and they got pissed because they're like, "That's not voodoo," and I was like, "Dude, just let it go." Like we've seen the Top Gun movie. A lot of that is absolutely asinine and not military at all. Like you just gotta let the voodoo thing go.
Yeah.
But now, no, burn Disney at the stake.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't like Disney now. Oh yeah, and there was the Sword of Triton as well, wasn't it?
I actually liked the fourth one more than the fifth one.
Well, right now, so do I, because I'm not seeing the fifth one.
Girl, you've got to see the fifth one.
I'm sorry. I go.
Okay, interesting. Sting, I'm interested in your thoughts on that one. What?
Well, I thought they went too far with the villain in the fifth one. It was like, so he's like half a ghost kind of thing. It was just I don't know. I just didn't like it. I liked the actor and all that, but it was just yeah, you could tell they were kind of running out of ideas almost.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I can hear that. It's just becoming more and more slapstick. I just like the fifth one because I enjoyed the last parts where it finally concluded what was almost messed up, in my humble opinion, at the end of the third movie, because I just wasn't fond of that whole thing.
Yeah.
Will.
Rennie nailed it. She said Ash Pirates, which is pretty much what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ash Pirates, LOL, and she liked him getting out of the David Jones. Exactly.
Actually, if they had fought Barbossa's Ghost Pirates, it would be Ash versus Evil Dead.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
So I have a question.
Sure.
With this whole Depp herd nonsense going on, Depp made it clear that apparently, I forget what Rottenborn asked him, but he was like, if Disney offered you like $300 million and like 10 yachts, it was like something ridiculous like that. He's like, are you saying you wouldn't go back? And Depp's like, I will never work for Disney again. Do you think that the Pirates franchise is effectively dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they can make other pirate movies, fine, but I don't. In this franchise, you can't do it without Depp because he's so ingrained in the whole franchise. I mean,
yeah.
You don't see people buy Will Turner figures, do you?
No.
That they buy Jack Sparrow stuff.
Or dress up like Will Turner for Halloween, but how many Jack Sparrows are there out there? Good point. Yeah, it's dead. That's why I think, frankly, even without all them being idiots and firing him, that it would have been just fine. Just end it with the fifth one, again, because it brought everything full circle.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the fact that the happily ever after had kind of been taken from these characters. That's why I like the first one. I can almost think of the first one as its own story in itself, because they do sometimes need to live happily ever after, especially in these tales. And
well, you know what though? Maybe it's a good thing that Elizabeth only got to sleep with Will once every 10 years, because he probably has crabs, right?
Oh no.
Stieg.
Sorry.
But that was a good one, actually. But yeah, but you know what I'm saying. So I felt like we got the happily ever after back. I think that was
Yeah, and I think that that's
good.
definitely important.
So yeah, so why keep beating a dead horse? Why keep beating a dead horse?
Why,
They can just went
why keep beating a dead pirate ship?
Ah ha 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 ha.
Well, because I think like even though it's diminishing returns, people are still going to show up. People, well, they would have still shown up for Captain Jack Sparrow.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, someone was like, they could always recast him, and I'm like, no, you can't.
No, hell
You
no.
legitimately cannot. If you recast, and Disney knows this, there's no way they're going to be able to recast him.
It won't even be if fans won't accept it.
No, it would be vehemently rejected, and it's just the absolute hubris of Disney. It's just been so fascinating to watch them crumble because this is literally their own doing.
Isn't it ironic though that the guy who played Captain Jack Sparrow married a landho?
Oh
Lord in heaven.
No. Well, oh, that too. Okay, I'm trying to think if there were any other character. Let's see, because we had like the Fountain of Youth, Triton Sword. I'm trying to think. In any other supernatural villains? Did I miss any? Or characters, rather.
No, but I really did actually like the heart of Davy Jones being in a chest, and like he had the key on him and stuff like that. I really did like that.
Yeah, those were fun aspects, and I just think it was just really clever, even though it was all ripped off from Monkey Island. They did a great job. And I would also say that, of course, you cannot have anyone but Johnny Depp play Jack Sparrow. I would agree with the other characters too. Even Elizabeth, they couldn't have someone else play Elizabeth. I mean, for crying out loud, they brought back Keira Knightley for like 3 seconds at the end of that one movie, and probably had to pay a buttload of money for it too. But I'm glad that they did it, because it would have been really stupid. It's like, let's go find Elizabeth, and it's like, I don't know, someone that looks like it could have been Keira Knightley.
It was actually interesting to see an interview with Christopher Lee at the time.
Oh,
because he had a go at Hollywood. Hollywood basically ultra promoting some young actors and giving them big leading roles that they were not experienced enough to do. And he said these young actors would have a shelf space of 2 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? Orlando Bloom, Pirates, and then you had Kingdom of Heaven and all that stuff. And what happened afterwards? You hardly ever, you don't see him in big movies anymore. He's gone.
He's burnt out.
Same with Keira Knightley.
She went crazy.
Well, yeah, she did a lot of drugs.
She was actually, she's been in and out of the hospital. She actually became, oh God, not the one where you puke. That's bulimic. What's the one where you don't eat?
Anorexia.
Yeah. So her anorexia was so bad that her bones became brittle, and she was like breaking bones from like.
Speaking of brittle people and breaking bones, Matt Wilkins is in the chat.
Oh yay, Matt Wilkins! Say he's not brittle at all, but yeah, I mean it's a great tragedy. But what Christopher Lee says, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, in that same one, he also talked about the fact that many of them had been trained on the stage and being supporting characters and learning the craft and learning a work ethic. And
Orlando Bloom was basically hauled straight out of acting school onto the Lord of the Rings.
He had 6 months of stage acting under his belt, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's not that Bloom was a bad actor.
No,
he was actually very good, but it's the hype crap that Hollywood and the media do to basically promote young actors. And
new. It's not.
Yeah, and you basically just spend them.
Yeah, it's not even young. It's It's not even young. It's new actors. Like I remember, oh God, I can't think of his name. He made appearances on like Charmed and stuff. I can't think of his name, but he was an older gentleman. He got started in acting when he was like 72, 73. And so he would be like, if you were cursed with old age, he'd be the one in the mirror looking back at you, stuff like that, right? And
I thought you were talking about George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, no. I won't touch on him, but like I can't think of the actor's name. But he started out with these smaller little bits and roles, and then in the late 90s they pushed him through like 6 major productions, and he almost had a heart attack.
Yeah,
but he was so popular, people loved him. They loved his attitude, they loved his spirit. He had the acting chops. And within 3 years, he was pushed through like 6 major productions, and it almost killed him. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to retire now because that was insane. Like he goes, I don't think I could have done that at the age of 30 and survived it.
Yeah, so unlike Orlando Bloom, he didn't bloom too soon. He bloomed too late. Yes, Steve, you were going to say something?
Yeah, Soul Assassin brings up Sam Worthington as well.
Yeah.
Avatar and a bunch of other things, Terminator 4, which was shit. And the same thing happened. Young actor, they pushed him into everything, and shelf space of 2 to 5 years, right? Just like Christopher Lee warned against.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, precisely. So to bring it all full circle, I wanted to ask the panel if you had to choose one movie, and I'm almost thinking I want to get rid of the first one because I don't know if everyone would choose the first movie.
Yeah.
So besides the first movie, after the first movie, what is your favorite Pirates of the Caribbean one? Let's start with Steak.
I think the second one because of Davy Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And, they did a cliffhanger at the end. Actually, 2 cliffhangers in a sense because Barbossa returned and then you had Sparrow being missing and all. Mm-hmm. And so it made me want to watch the third one. I think that the third one, and no pun intended, jumped the ship a bit. But yeah, I think I'm going to end up with the second one being my favorite.
Yeah, when you said a lot about the Davy Jones before, because I was going to say that would also be your favorite villain. How about you, Lady Gravemaster?
Well, since I've not seen the 5th,
she pleads the 5th.
I plead the 5th.
There we go.
I think I'm gonna have to go with the second one because I really just can't get over how they made Elizabeth the pirate. I could forgive the third one a lot of things. But when they made her the Pirate King, I really wanted to just burn the theater down. Not really, but like I was so upset.
It sucked. I mean, it just sucked.
Yeah, it was just something I couldn't get over because that was effectively you're telling girls that their power ranking and their structure and their hierarchy are not as powerful or strong or as hierarchical. That word.
Hierarchical.
Yeah, that one. That they're not as good as the male structures, and it just I couldn't get it. Bothered me then, and it bothers me now. The whole idea that like I've never even seen the Tudors. But you said it's pretty good, and like all these people are like, oh, it's actually really, really good. But there's a scene, I don't even know what the name of the show is, but it's got Mary, Queen of Scots in it, and she's like in France or something.
Are you talking about Rain? Well, yeah,
Rain.
I mean,
yeah. And she's like, they would believe they're like, and she uses queen like it's like she throws it at him like she's like, I am a queen, bitch, back the hell down. And I'm like, yes, that's what this is. Like, she didn't say they'll believe they're king because she's not a king. She's a queen.
Yeah, they really did ruin a lot of aspects with that.
And it
and I also thought
destroyed
the third
Elizabeth's
movie
character for me. Also, she's like the fact she was so flippant with her affection and stuff.
yeah.
She's like where she had started to have like a crush on Jack Sparrow, and I'm like, dude, no, I'm so sick of disloyal bitches. Can we get this trope and bury it deep, deep, deep in Davy Jones's locker?
Yeah, well, I think that is an example of bad fan service because there was just a little bit of flirtation, but in the first movie between the two, especially on Johnny Depp's kind of thing level when she was all drunk and he was like, "Oh, maybe she likes me." It was something that was almost a throwaway joke, but it was always very clear that it was Will. And then because fans and fan fiction, everyone's like, "Oh, it should be them. There should be a triangle." They threw it in, and it sucked. So wait, you said which one then was the second one?
I'd have to take this. I didn't really care for the fourth one wasn't. I like the fourth better than the third, but out of all of the ones that I have seen, I'll have to pick the second one.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously after the first one, yeah, I would say the second one, it was probably the most consistent after the last one, even though there were bits and pieces that they had. And as far as villains go, I just still like Barbossa. As he was good. I didn't like them bringing him back to life though at all.
But, excellent actor though, Jeffrey Rush. He played Peter Sellers in the biopic. He nailed it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's an amazing actor. Yeah. And so as we're winding down the hour, well, wow, we did really well. Yay!
Yeah.
We did it. We made it through. And I am seeing, and I've been highlighting some of these chats. Yeah, it seems a lot of people. No one's really saying that the last movies were their favorites, and certainly no one's saying the fifth one. The fifth one was tolerable to watch, like on an airplane. I think that's actually when I watched it. It wasn't great. The last one I saw in the cinema was the fourth one, and that kind of did me in as far as that's concerned. We went after the third one into TV movie territory, if you will, because also a lot of the characteristics of the first one, the swashbuckling, it just wasn't there. It just wasn't there anymore. But that's okay. Yeah, and I mean, and I despise what they did to Johnny Depp, but maybe it's for the best.
It's
possibly, yeah.
I guess the first three were kind of Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, 4 and 5 were like Jack Sparrow movies.
That's a good
it's just
point.
Have him do goofy stuff all the time.
That'd be I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on the burning actors out and whatnot, Sam Worthington's actually, I looked up his IMDb because I was actually curious. He's actually been pretty active. They're just not pushing him as a Hollywood golden boy anymore.
Yeah, that's what happens. And I mean, even Orlando Bloom has been in stuff, but it's just straight to DVD and
Yeah, and because I think they're like, oh, okay. And what's really funny is that they are doing self-fulfilling prophecies. They're like, okay, well, Orlando Bloom isn't going to get butts into seats anymore. Like his name isn't going to bring butts into seats. So he's over, like his expiration date has passed or whatever. And that's not true. I know we're the demographic that they're targeting. They're still in love with Orlando. Like if he was in a movie, they would go watch it. Like they want the movie to be good, but they would go watch it for Orlando Bloom. They would. Like he would get butts into seats. And I think there's just this, I don't know. It's almost like there's a fear of the movie star lately.
Because they're afraid someone's going to come out and Me Too him.
Well, basically, the stuff he's famous for is the Lord of the Rings, the Pirates movie, and Pirates movies, and Kingdom of Heaven, which are all swashbuckling-ish. He's like a mini Errol Flynn,
Good
but
point.
then he started doing all kinds of other stuff that we don't really hear about.
I don't
much,
know. I
right?
liked him in Troy. Like, I hated his character, but I thought he portrayed it very well.
Yeah. There's actually there's nothing wrong with him as an actor.
Yeah.
It's just he just ended up being in a lot of similar stuff in a short period of time, and I think if he makes like a big comeback, I think it's going to be in something completely different.
Yeah.
Well,
You
I
know?
wouldn't mind seeing
Like
him
a
in
cop movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't actually mind seeing him in an actual like action adventure tale. You know what I mean? Like something like High Road to China.
Yeah.
That would never get made today, but I wouldn't mind seeing him in something like that. But I just find it interesting because apparently, so Avatar 3 is in post already, and 4 and 5 are filming, and Sam Worthington is in all of them as Jake Sully. And
Bush is saying that the first one was best, so we're wrong. Teresa told us to pick a favorite that wasn't the first one, so that's why we're picking 2, 3, or 4, or 5. We weren't allowed to pick the first one because it was the obvious choice.
Yeah, because we're obviously
Yeah.
it's the best, yeah.
So I don't know. I think, like I agree with Miss Martin. I think that if they had stopped with 1, just like a one and done, but I think that about Terminator as well. 1 and 2, it should have just been. Not everything has to be a sprawling franchise. Not everything has to be a trilogy. I think the art of standalone novels as well as standalone movies is really getting lost on people, and it's not because of a passion either. Like what terrifies me is if you have something that was intended to be like a standalone film and it does really, really well at the box office, well, then the studio wants to milk it. It's not the writer, it's not the producer, it's not the director necessarily that wants to do it. It's the studio wants to milk it for everything it's worth.
Yeah,
and they will go
I can
until
understand
they get
it though.
blood out of a turnip.
If you have a movie that earns you $1 billion, you're gonna want to make use of that and make more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pirates was in many ways a victim of its own success because actually the second one was more successful than the first one, and I think even like the fifth one. I mean, we're talking about these were all profitable movies.
Yeah, they all were.
Yeah, and you can see the stuff with with the Transformers as well. The first one was okay, then they just get shittier and shittier, but they keep making money.
Yep.
And I guess the Resident Evil movies as well.
Well, the games, that Resident Evil is like we're gonna just put that over in its own little paradox.
Because it doesn't even follow the games as far as it just has some of the characters from the game showing up, like member berries.
The Sonic movies don't follow the game. Like, I mean, he's I don't know. They do a really. I think that Sonic 2 is now officially the most successful video game adaptation film. And it deserves it. It's actually a really good film. And
and it's popular with the kids. Once you have something that's popular with the kids,
but I think
it's just gonna make piles of money.
Yeah, and when they listened to the fans about the CGI Sonic, that went a long way. That went a long, long way.
Yeah, that's how you get goodwill.
Yeah.
Imagine that goodwill.
Incredible. But yeah, I think you can literally collapse under the weight of your, you can get too big and you can literally collapse. That's why when people are like, oh, don't you wish that Tolkien had written 6 Lord of the Rings books? And I was like, not really, because I've read Chronicles of Narnia, and say what you will, but the further down that rabbit hole we got, the further away we got from the main. Miss Martin and I, we've talked about this.
I only like the third one.
On stream of
the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. That one works perfectly fine as a standalone book.
Yes. Well, okay, so that one was technically published first, but it's second chronologically.
Okay, I thought it was third.
No, I believe it's second.
Yeah, that's second, but first, but second.
That's actually something you could call the if someone does an Amber Heard biopic, you could call it, the lion bitch in the wardrobe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and speaking of which, as we're winding down, to kind of bring it back in a little bit, I held off obviously on talking about anything to do with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp because that's we're talking about the movies, and part of what was going on with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp just reminded me, it's like, damn, gosh, these movies were good. And when he had said that he lost the role of Jack Sparrow because of what we're seeing is
politics, really.
Politics. And objectively speaking, it's like they punished him for being a victim of domestic abuse, which is really messed up. Yeah, so I'm going to allow, well, say allow, I'm going to loosen things up here and allow us maybe to talk a little bit about what did happen, seeing I didn't know.
Well, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because all this happened during the Me Too craze, right?
Yeah.
And Amber Heard just, leapt onto the Me Too wagon.
Yep.
Hoping to score money, and she did. But I saw an interview with Liam Neeson because he was saying that the Me Too stuff was going too far, and he had a friend that was basically a radio star, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he had before Me Too happened, he had a guest, a female guest who had just lost her father, and she was doing an interview anyway, and they had to cut to to do like a break or something because she started having problems. She started crying, and the radio guy put his hand on her back and to comfort her or whatever. And she said, you're very kind, blah blah blah, thank you. 2 years later, she reports him for the Me Too stuff because he touched her back without permission, and he got fired for just being nice to someone who's having a breakdown because her dad died.
Yep.
So there's tons of stories like this, and Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, it's just very prolific. That's the only difference. It's being broadcasted.
Yeah. She didn't want, she requested that cameras not be allowed in the courtroom, and I think it's pretty obvious why. Because anybody that's been watching this trial knows that she's lying. Now, I'm not saying that Depp is 100%. Like, he's admitted to yelling. He's admitted to punching cabinets. He's admitted to, breaking like he broke a glass in the sink and stuff. But at no point has he chucked anything at her like she has at him. At no point did he strike her like she did to him.
Which is surprising given the insane amount of provocations.
Yeah,
he said, she's been mocking his alcoholism, trying to get him to drink, really, by drinking around him,
mocking his alcoholism, trying to get him to drink, trying to get him to do more hard drugs. She brought him cocaine, and she's just not a good woman. And the fact that Disney did to Johnny Depp what they did to Gina Carano, and it didn't get highlighted because he didn't he didn't make a huge fuss out of it because he was still trying to protect Amber, because he was still all the stuff that's coming out with his text messages to her mom and everything. He's I stayed quiet. I kept her secrets. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt her. I still had a career, but now she's just cost me everything. It was right after she went and got the restraining order on him on his daughter's birthday, because it always has to be about her. She's a psychopath, narcissistic. She's a narcissistic sociopath. And the fact that she's going to sit there and just embellish all of her lies. I'm sorry, you're not going to get violated with a broken glass bottle and not need to go seek medical attention. You're not going to be stepping and on crushed glass for hours. Like, I cut my finger. So I tried to catch we were washing dishes, and the glass was wet and soapy, and it slipped, and I went to go try and catch it, and it broke in the sink. But I still went to try and catch it, and it sliced my finger to the bone. Sliced it to the bone. I had to go into the hospital. They had to remove like three tiny because I could feel the glass on my bone. I was like, Mom, it's still in there. Like I think I was like 12. I was like, Mom, it's still in there. It hurts. Like, we have to get it out. So they went in, they did like this dye contrast thing. And sure enough, I had these 3 tiny shards of glass embedded in my bone. They had to go in, they had to punch the muscle tissue out so that they could get to the bone so that they could remove it. And I had to be conscious for all of this.
So definitely, it is definitely something that
like you can still see my scar.
Well,
and I'm like, there's no way in hell that she spent hours running across glass, being slammed into a glass table, and she doesn't have a mark on her.
Yeah, well, and I think that's part of the problem. And I mean, let's just say that maybe some stuff had come out that Johnny Depp. The fact that they fired him on an accusation.
Yeah.
It was guilty until proven innocent.
Yep.
And while, a lot of these companies, these contracts, these Hollywood contracts, they're all at will. They can get rid of them at any time. And he not only lost the role of Jack Sparrow, but he also lost the role in the Fantastic Beasts. Now, one could argue, is that such a great loss? Well, yes, it is, because that was his role. It was a starring role, and
it was money. He was getting paid.
Yeah.
Well, it actually showcases what a shit company Disney is too, because they were still selling Jack Sparrow stuff after they canceled him.
Yep.
So they were still making money off of.
And the fact that he didn't say anything, like because he didn't refute anything when it first came. He was just like, he goes, I think what he said was that there was clearly a misunderstanding. His recollection wasn't the same, but he didn't come out and call her an outright liar. She slandered him to repeatedly accused him of some of the most horrible crimes anyone could commit against another human being. And
she wasn't alone. That's the thing. I mean, she did it, yes, but the media.
Oh yeah.
The media certainly did their part, and
absolutely
nobody's holding them accountable for it.
Nope. And I think, honestly, the Me Too movement should be dead after this, because it was weaponized, and Amber, this has hurt actual victims so much. I mean, now everybody's going to be like, okay, is she telling the truth, or is this an Amber Heard situation? Is she just trying to get money or the house or fame? Like, what is going on? And I'm not saying that there's clearly women out there that are like that, but now you're going to have female victims who are going to actually be victims, and they're not going to be really believed, most likely. And I think it's a double-edged sword, because Johnny Depp is proving, and I've seen this, I saw this a lot in the military. Men get violently abused. Women are incredibly abusive, but because they're men and because they're usually bigger and stronger, most people don't believe that they are being mentally, verbally, physically, emotionally abused. And it's just freaking tragic, all because they were born with a Y chromosome. It's just sad.
Well, and as you say, it's putting back a lot of genuine women's rights, I guess, if you're trying to say, because it is true. It is true that it wasn't too long ago where a man could beat the living shite out of his wife and no one would do anything, because the idea is like, well, you married him, it's a spousal thing. It does exist. But if there is a good thing that's coming out of this, we're also seeing the other way around, where I think that it's becoming a little more acceptable to talk about how men get abused. Men get abused in different ways, obviously, because it's very hard to physically, just because of biology. Oh gosh, I said biology, but you know what I mean.
Well,
Yeah. No, it's true.
not necessarily, because most guys won't hit back.
Yeah.
So
There's
they're
a
just
lot
gonna
of women
take
that
it.
take advantage of that.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm trying to say is, yes, Steve. I mean,
Yep.
that's the other aspect of it. So that the abuse, it like the fact that a man with the men in many ways it's psychological, like, because that is a psychological thing. There is nothing worse, and we're seeing this in other aspects where people attack you. People come and punch you in the face, figuratively or literally, and if you try to defend yourself, then you're the bad guy. That's the position that these women are putting these men in when they do that. And even when she was like, "Oh, you're a big baby, you didn't get hurt. I just hit you. I didn't punch you. I didn't knock you out. You've been in fights." It's like, that's exactly it right there. So maybe that's also a good aspect. But I mean, Hollywood's just going to keep putting themselves even more down the crapper if they just keep doing this, because also Johnny Depp is probably one of the biggest of the big. You know what I mean? He couldn't do any wrong. And if they're willing to fire him on an accusation that has not been proven, no one's safe.
No, and that's why I have massive respect for Dior. I never thought I would say that about a fragrance and like beauty company, but they didn't ditch him. And they made a statement. They were like, at this time, there is no evidence to suggest that he is guilty of these crimes. Like, they kept him as their sponsor.
Which is ironic, a fragrance company smelled a rat.
Maybe, yes, they did. You are correct. When Dior didn't ditch him, I was like, dude, good for them. I hope it doesn't sink their brand, because if he's guilty, it's going to look really bad. But no, they stuck by their principles, and they were like, there is nothing, like, we've worked with him. We've had like many of, like, I think they had women execs come out, and they were like, he's never been anything but an absolute gentleman. He's sweet. He's endearing. He's a joy to work with. He's never done anything to make any of us uncomfortable. That's not something that you can hide, especially when you work with someone for years. Like, we have a pretty good handle on Mr. Depp's character as a human being. And, he will still be representing our brand regardless of how, depending on the evidence found for the court case. And then, because he technically lost the one in the UK, they were like, well, aren't you going to ditch him now? And they were like, well, no, because he lost on a technicality. He wasn't actually found guilty. He lost on a technicality.
Well, it gets kind of uglier, though, because Disney, got rid of Johnny Depp, canceled him basically, and shat on him. But almost at the same time, they hired Leslie Headland and gave her a Star Wars show. Yep. Leslie Headland was Harvey Weinstein's
personal assistant,
who got him women. She basically enabled him all through her career and didn't say anything until it was safe.
Yep.
So she had actually, I think they said she might have participated too. I'm not sure about that, but
I don't know.
Yeah, they're basically rewarding someone who actually did something wrong, and shitting on the guy who did nothing just because he's a guy.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's very telling, the fact, like, that, Johnny Depp has said he'll never go back to Disney, because the way that he found out. Did you guys see the way he found out?
No.
It was the same way Gina Carano found out. He saw the headline of an article that he had been fired. An official Disney spokesperson came out and said that they were terminating their contracts with Johnny Depp. They didn't call him. They didn't text, they didn't call his man, nothing. They didn't call any of his production team. He found out by reading an article. Well, and that's what I'm saying.
It's a little bit what happened with Wizards of the Coast and the Dragonlance writers.
Yeah.
They found out on Twitter
that
Wizards of the Coast have revived Dragonlance, and they're like, we didn't know about this. The creators weren't told. And, the same company, right? If we're talking about Gina Carano,
finding out on Twitter, you've got Johnny Depp.
No, she was basically fired for her political leanings, right? That's what it was. But at the same time, Wizards
no, I'm
of the
saying
Coast.
they found out the same way. Like nobody called them. Nobody like that's what I'm saying. The fact that and I'm not and I am in no way, shape, or form diminishing how it was done, what was done to Gina Carano, but the identical thing and the identical way was done to Johnny Depp. He found out from a news article, that he had been fired.
There was another case too with Wizards of the Coast. People started, an artist who does artwork for the Magic the Gathering cards and stuff.
Yep.
She's done Star Wars comic covers. She got fired simply because she followed Donald Trump and Jack Posobiec on Twitter. Yep. She hadn't retweeted anything or anything. She was following them.
Yep.
She got fired for that.
Yeah, which is absurd because, first of all, objectively speaking, I follow some people that I don't like one little bit. Just because you follow someone, that doesn't necessarily mean an endorsement.
Yeah.
And of course, how many people can say that woman's name? And I'll just leave it at that. No one gives a crap. And it's difficult because just the way that the trending works. And I'll just leave it at that. That we've had a lot of people that have been victims of it. If no one really wants to give them the attention that they deserve. I mean, I try to highlight it here on my channel, and I don't know. I might even make some videos about it. I don't know, but yeah, it's out there, and there are many people and many artists and many classic people. Well, look what they did to Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, the Dragonlance writers.
Yeah, and Jeff Grubb, who did the Spelljammer stuff.
Well, I mean, you can go back even further than that. Look at how they did Marilyn Monroe. Like, God, her story is just tragic.
Well, she didn't get fired.
No. Oh. Yes, she did. Yes,
she did. I know, but if she got fired, I mean, that was a total different era. We're talking about
no, but she refused. She didn't want to do a nude scene, and she was literally the next day she showed up and her dressing room had just been cleaned out. That's the equivalent of finding out on Twitter. Nobody told her. They just took all her shit. Okay. Yeah, they just took all her shit and basically threw it in the dumpster. And then when the movie flopped, they came crawling back to her, and she was like, "No." And they were like, "We'll pay you anything you want." And then she finally agreed to do it. And her oh God, I forget which but her co-star basically had to fight for her and be like, "No, we have to do this with her." And they were like, "Okay, fine." And she was like, "Well, this is what I want." And then 4 days later, she was dead. And that's not what I'm really getting at. But back, imagine if there had been social media back in that day. That's essentially the equivalent of finding out on social media that you've been fired. When you show up, nobody tells you anything. You walk past all these cast and crew members, and you get to your changing room, and all your shit's gone. This is par for the course for Hollywood. They just do not care about human beings.
Well, yeah, and they never have, and it's always very fake when they do pretend. It's all about money, or it's about the current thing. I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
It's not going to go away because the people who keep yelling to the high heavens that we must boycott this company because it's so woke and so despicable, blah blah blah, and then 2 minutes later, watch me do a review of the new thing they made.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna stay the way it is because
you still get that traction. Well, but
boycotts only work if it's actually a boycott. I think we're also talking about the difference between virtue signaling and actually doing a boycott, and it's really hard to organize if no one's on board with it. But I think
the thing is that what
sorry, I'm sorry, Lady Gravemaster. Steve was just going to respond to that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's the hashtag stand with Gina Carano. What is it? Who's standing with them and how? Because I don't see anyone actually doing anything except saying stand with Gina Carano. They're still doing, watch the Bad Batch or whatever it is, or Book of Boba Fett. It's that's not standing with Gina Carano. That's just saying that you stand with her while you're actually sitting down and watching the latest Star Wars product.
Yeah. Well, people have stopped using that too. I've noticed.
Yeah, because it's not trending anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, Lady Greymaster.
No, I was just gonna say, I think if social media has proven anything, it's that there's a lot of people who would be, if it wasn't for the fact, I mean, social media destroys your brain, and it's bad stuff. Like what it can do, I think what it's proven is that there are a lot of addicts in this world, but their choice of drug is just social media, because they get that dopamine hit on the likes or on the trending, or like if they go viral, and like now the obsession is to become viral, and so you have less people, like even content creators, and I know you can't see me using air quotes, but you get a lot less passion projects, and you get a lot more trending stuff. Like I don't personally have anything against the quartering, but he'll do 3 to 5 videos a day, and it'll be about like the current thing, like the current trending thing. And I get it, it's built his channel, it's got him on the algorithm wave, it was a solid, it works, it's a solid plan. But I don't really know where Jeremy from the Quartering falls on a lot of issues, because even when it was with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, at first he was like, Amber Heard just gave an Oscar-worthy performance on the stand. Like, if you don't think this is bad for Johnny Depp, then you're not paying attention. And I'm like, dude, I don't think we watched the same trial, because that's not at all what I saw. And then 20 minutes later, after he he was receiving not even backlash, just counter viewpoints, he found a CNN article title, and it was, it was basically in support of Johnny Depp. And he's like, oh, CNN doesn't believe Amber Heard. Now it's a slam dunk for Johnny Depp. So it's not that, and hey, I've been proven wrong, and I can change my point of view, but I've noticed that, like, I'm still working on Wheel of Time stuff, but I've noticed that a lot of people have just forgotten about Wheel of Time. And that's a very dangerous thing to do, because Lord of the Rings is coming up, and if anything is a warning about what we're about to witness, it's going to be Wheel of Time. Because it's essentially the same people working on Lord of the Rings, or on Rings of Power, as did Wheel of Time. There's a lot of crossover between the two. And so, like, I'm still working on Wheel of Time stuff, but that's because I care about it. It's not because it's trending. It's not because it's, at the top of the algorithm wave, but it's because it matters to me.
Yeah. I remember swinging by a channel, and they were talking about Wheel of Time, and they were outraged about all the race swapping, and they're destroying a great story. And I just asked, how many of you on the panel have actually read the books? Not a single one. So they were like outraged for clicks, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think, I want to be cautious here, because I do generally have a rule at my channel that if someone's not here to defend themselves, even though I don't think Jeremy's going to be crying anytime soon.
No, and like I said, I'm not
that on this little channel, he didn't have a chance to get his side in. But I think it is true. If I'm going to try to bring a thread through on this, is that it's not about fighting woke and entertainment. It's not about all of that. And I found this out the hard way. It's about what will build your channel. And there's been some debate about this lately, about, are we really trying to fight woke and entertainment? And I have some opinions about that. It's very hard, because I was of the opinion that we were going to be fighting wokeness and entertainment. But on my channel, I continue to just talk about stuff that I love. I mean, I know what I can do to get to. I know what I can do to get to 1,000. I know what I can do to get to 10,000. But for me personally, it is not worth losing my soul. And there's certain. I'm just not going to go into that. I'm just saying that, what is it? It profits nobody to gain the whole world and to lose their soul, but to gain a YouTube channel, it's like, really, no. And I also want to make it clear, because I always like to give disclaimers here at Mr. Martin Muses. Everyone has every right to do whatever they want, to watch whatever they want, and build their YouTube channel however they want, objectively speaking. And I'm not in any way saying that in any way. I don't think any of the panelists here would
Yeah,
object
we're
to.
talking
Yeah.
in general terms. We're not
Yeah, just in general. It's
going
just
after
Yeah.
individuals.
yeah, I was just and like I said, I'm in no way, shape, or form going after Jeremy from the quartering. Like I have been proven wrong on top. Like Stig actually was like Lady G. He's like gravy. That's not true. And like he showed me stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pull my foot out of my mouth now. I was wrong. Like that's not what I'm saying. Like I don't know if it was like a genuine turn. Like he was like, okay, like this is what did it for me was the CNN article. Okay, you know what? That's totally fine. And like I said, I'm not going after the guy. He's built a successful YouTube channel. He's about as milk toast as you can get. And I don't mean that in an insult kind of way. He's called himself milk toast. But yeah, in no way was I going after Jeremy from the quartering. It's just it's like you said, kind of that was just an example I was giving that I saw like within the past couple of days.
Mhm.
I just wish there was more consistency in what some people did or what some people do. And I'm not saying you have to be 100% consistent all the time. That's actually legitimately impossible. If you're looking at like productivity and stuff like that. But I think that even if we could shoot for like 90% consistent, I think that would be a great increase in not even fighting the woke, but just in general getting better entertainment like we used to get.
Yeah. Well,
that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. It is what it is. It is what it is.
I do the disclaimer: these views do not reflect Miss Martin Muse's channel. She's not affiliated.
I just enjoy. I just wanted to make that clear. That
I think if you want to fight, the woke stuff, you should also provide alternatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you say, don't watch this, it's woke, but okay, so let's say the person does that and just sits down in a chair for 2 hours instead of watching a movie. Provide alternatives, like we've been doing with books and Gravy and I with the old movies that we do once per month.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
the book club on Saturday.
Explain why this crap is bad. Explain why this stuff over here is way better.
Mm-hmm.
That then you've offered an alternative, and I think with we have about a century of movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if the last 10 years of movies suck, you still have 90 years of content. You're not gonna have time to watch all of it.
Nope.
So every time you watch a movie you haven't watched before, it's new content.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be made today to be new for you, right?
Yep.
Same with books. The Dragonlance books, I've been promoting them a bit lately. The old Forgotten Realms stuff, Wheel of Time, Raymond Feist, Terry Brooks, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it sold like hell for a reason, because it was good.
I think something that I found out, which actually shocked me, I was unaware that there is actually a higher percentage of people that don't have an inner monologue voice. Like they don't like when I read, I have a voice in my head that I can hear and I can like visualize stuff. Apparently, I'm in the minority of people. Maybe that's just because I read a lot. I have no idea, but a majority of people do not have an inner monologue, and that's why they say that like reading is boring, or they have to do audiobooks because they just like it's impossible for them to read because it's so boring and the stuff just doesn't stick. I had no idea that many people lacked an internal monologue or an internal voice, as it were.
Yeah, it's like they lack an imagination in that sense.
That's like I don't understand how, especially when you read, the three of us have talked about this, ad nauseum, honestly, where like Jordan is probably on par with Tolkien when it comes to world building. It's just so intricate and in depth and vivid. Like his writing is actually vivid, and I can clearly picture everything that he is talking about. And so I just don't, I guess it's lost on me how other people, when they say that they actually can't do that, and that's why they wait for the movies or they wait for the show or they do the audiobooks, because they actually can't do it. I was actually stunned when I found that out.
Well, and I think a lot of that has to do with, as you said, people need to do more reading. And I genuinely believe that the way that you save culture, if we want to save culture, you cannot fight the woke. It's impossible, and for several reasons.
Well,
you cannot. No, you cannot. We do not have the money, and the people that do have maybe some
but you can
influence
stop
are not.
giving them money.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, you can. But let's just be honest. I can stop giving them money. Yes. But unless it happens in large droves, and we don't even have people in our own circle that are willing to do that. Okay. I'm just saying, and I'm being very careful because I don't like to, I'm not going to call out anybody who's not here, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. If we can't even agree among a small community, how the hell are we going to do it on a big community? And all I'm saying is that we can't. I've thrown in the towel over the last month. I've thrown in the towel. We cannot fight this culture war on their terms because they have more money. They have more influence. And those that perhaps might aren't, we're not on the same page, and that's okay. What I'm saying is we're wasting our friggin' time trying to fight on their terms. How are we going to fight on our terms? So that's what I'm kind of focusing on. And one of those things is like what Steve was saying, was about let's start promoting the good stuff. Let's go backwards, because we cannot compete with what's coming out right now. We cannot equal their voices. And that's all there is to it. Steve, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, at the very least, if someone's telling everyone else to boycott this and that, at the very least, they can start boycotting themselves too. If I'm sitting here telling you, "Oh, don't watch Disney Star Wars, boycott it," and I don't do it myself, then it's hypocritical as hell, which is pretty much what I've been seeing, right? It's all virtue signaling. But like you said, we can't fight the woke stuff because we don't have a big enough voice. But the thing is, you're not going to get much of a voice if you're upset about Disney Star Wars and then you're sitting there watching it anyway while whimpering.
They look at clicks, and they look at money, and they look at trending, and they for no news is good news.
Yeah. Which is basically, your integrity has turned into a prostitute.
Perhaps, but I think that to be fair, I think that the tide has shifted where it's not really about boycotting anymore. It's not really about that.
No, never was.
I know. I guess I'm about to be guilty of it because I will be covering Rings of Power, but again, that's because I care about Lord of the Rings and I intend to rip the show 10 Ways to Sunday, but I also intend to make direct comparisons and to give people other outlets. But like I said, if two people watch my streams and decide not to watch Amazon, then I've canceled myself out. Plus I've taken one away. I don't know if that makes me a hypocrite. I don't know if that makes me just take my foot in my mouth. But the thing is, pacifism isn't going to work either. You can't. I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that because you can't simply ignore the thing and hope it goes away, because conservatives have tried that approach for decades and look at where we're at.
Yeah.
You can't simply ignore the thing because it just grows into this other beast that now you have now you're fighting a 10-headed Hydra. And it's just been it's just absolutely insane. So I don't have a good answer for that. I really don't. But I do know that I'm I do know that if I can get my goal, I don't need 10,000 people to watch my videos or my streams or anything like that. I don't need, like, like Miss Martin was saying, I don't need to be 100,000 sub channel. That's not my goal with this. My goal, because I care about Lord of the Rings and I hate what Amazon is doing to it, I'm not just gonna sit by and not say anything.
Yeah. Well, and again,
people. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and there was a debate to be had about compare, like what you're talking about, like things like compare and contrast, and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. I think we're talking about the difference between something like that and then making
clickbait vids algorithm.
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, I'm cautious.
No, I hear you. I got you.
Yeah.
Far be it for me to tell someone else how to do their YouTube channel, though. Like you said.
Well, because it works. I guess what I'm just trying to say is I think that sometimes maybe there has been a disconnect into what were our goals, and if I misunderstood, well, then I misunderstood. But more power to people. But I do think that some things have been very effective, actually, with some of this Rings of Power things, because you see some channels that are actually getting a lot of traction and notice, like when the calling out of, say, the trailer that came out, and you saw that Amazon is actually responding, because obviously they're not getting the reactions they want to get, and the way people were calling out the fakeness of the so-called super fans, and then it turns out they weren't even super fans. Like Disparu, he did some really good work where he actually found out, compared and contrasted all the different videos, and that they were actually choreographed the same, and obviously were being directed.
Well, the Lord of the Rings fans, the Tolkien fans, they are doing what Star Wars fans failed to do, because the Tolkien fans actually have balls.
Well, see, I was gonna say, and I think it's hard to, that there is a different crowd. It's definitely a different crowd,
and it also it spans it's interesting to me, because even though Lord of the Rings came out before Star Wars, it spans a lot of the same people. Like, it's the same generations involved. I guess Lord of the Rings fans are just more hardcore. I don't want to say that they're more hardcore, but like Stig said, all it would have taken, because I hated Force Awakens, but I just kind of quietly faded into the background. I didn't go see Last Jedi, didn't see the third, the Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker. I don't know. I just didn't say anything.
Well, that didn't work. I think I know what it is, because this goes back to what we were saying earlier about reading. If you are a fan of Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings is a worldwide phenomenon that's been going on for 70 years. If you're a reader, you are a different breed than someone that just watches a TV show. And I don't want to say just watches, the movies, because I know people that have just watched the Star Wars movies and are fighting the good fight, if you will. But
actually, you have a point. The Star Wars movies, right? It's all visual. You're sitting there being fed the Star Wars movies. If you read the Lord of the Rings, you're actively doing something. You're investing all kinds of efforts into reading the book and understanding the work and what have you, which I think is why the people who tend to cave in very easily and watch the latest Star Wars stuff, they're the people that didn't read much of the EU, while the EU readers tend to be way more critical of Disney Star Wars and way more set in their ways, and they actually do boycott. So it's like Bosch said, it's more engaging, because you're actually you're not passive when you're reading. You
Yeah.
know, because you're focusing, you're visualizing, you're hearing the voices, like Gravy said. You're remembering what you read before,
Mm-hmm.
and in my case, sometimes you're also translating. If you're reading a
True.
translated, if
Mm-hmm.
it's translated to Norwegian or something, so it's way more of a process. It's almost like a dialogue between you and the writer.
Mm-hmm.
While when you're watching a movie, you're just being fed, you're sitting there being stuffed.
Hmm.
You know,
Good point. Good tag team, if I say so myself. There, and I think that that's why the backlash for this Lord of the Rings is a little more sincere,
Mm-hmm.
and a little more hardcore. Yeah. It's and you can put a voice to what's wrong about something, because sometimes there will be people that genuinely don't know. I've run across this a million times where, for example, very quickly, just bringing in a small example of what happened over the weekend, and someone said to me, What's all this about them going after the Eucharist, the Blessed Sacrament?" And I'm not going to go into the details. That's not what I'm here to talk about. But I was
Mm-hmm.
able to explain, because this person was like, "I've never heard of this. What's going on? Why are they doing this?" And I just very briefly explained what it was, this is why they're doing it. And the person was like, "Oh, damn. Well, then that's even worse than I thought it was. Just, more than the psycho stuff that they were seeing." And so you have the same situation with some of these, and the difference between explaining and uh, exploiting, I think, is perhaps the word I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And the 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 magic you get out of reading is in a different realm. I have been, after some encouragement, been reading every day as much as I can, and I have found that my mental health, as far as stress and dealing with everyday problems, has just improved so much, because I'm not, first of all, I'm not engaging with the cycle of outrage, because you just run out of energy. You can only be mad for so long, so many times. But also, I think that it's engaging the the imagination and all that. Yeah, yeah, we had to lose Lady Gravemaster. Thank you, Lady Gravemaster. We love you uh, for being here. So that is also a way. And I'm becoming more and more convinced that while we can perhaps have an influence on the bigger world, if you can influence your own corner, then you've maybe succeeded. I don't know.
yeah,
So, I mean, this is called the Fantasy Tavern, and I did open this up. I didn't realize we were going to go keep talking this long, but I really am. These are questions I think worth talking about, and I just would recommend find as much fantasy as you can. Stieg already mentioned some of them. The Dritz book, Forgotten Realms. The the
yeah.
tape.
That's just the bigger ones. I mean, there's thousands of fantasy writers out there. You know, I mean, Star Wars alone, if you count the young adult books, it's probably around 200 novels and about 1,000 comics. You know, that's just one franchise. I mean, Dragonlance, I think, has 200 novels.
Mhm.
Forgotten Realms, probably much the same. Uh, Raymond Feist has done over 30 books. Terry Brooks has done over 40. Um, yeah, then you have the other ones. You have Robin Hobb, you have Joe Abercrombie, Terry Goodkind. You know, there's so much, and people need to kind of realize that, even if the new stuff sucks, you're not lacking for content.
Yeah,
Because there's you won't have time to read or watch it all.
yeah, in a
You know.
lifetime. I would add also. I don't know if you mentioned Conan, because it's
Oh yeah,
still.
Conan,
Yeah.
Robert E. Howard.
Mhm. Yeah, Robert E. Howard, and I'm about ready to get into Solomon Kane, another character who is a creation of his, and uh, also I've been reading the original Wonder Woman ones. You can buy reprints of them in omnibuses, the ones that started in like 1941, 42. They are really good. Obviously, old fashioned, but who the hell cares? I'm loving the old Wonder Womans, and I plan once I kind of get to a stopping point there, I'm going to go back and read the original Batmans. Go ahead, just go backwards.
Oh,
We do
yeah.
live in.
I mean, if you're like, oh yeah, these, this last, Spider-Man series, the last 20 comics of Spider-Man have been atrocious. I'm like, yeah, but why don't you just go back and read one of the other 20,000 comics that are good?
Yeah.
Nobody's forcing you to do the new stuff.
Precisely. Yeah, and I do see what's going on in the chat. Uh, sorry to hear about all the things that a lot of us are going through, but that's also what I want to be, is that we help out each other and maybe give a little bit of escape. Give a little bit of escape, because don't we all need that at the end of the day?
Well,
But
books are basically escapism for the mind, and
Mhm.
it's if the real world sucks, give your mind a vacation over in Middle Earth or
Yay.
wherever.
You can go there whenever you want to.
Yep.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I do need to wrap this up. Steve, are you have anything coming up this week?
Uh, your Silmarillion stream on Saturday. That's pretty much it.
Yep, that's all I really got going on this week too. I don't know. I may bounce around somewhere. I don't know, but I don't have anything planned right now. So thank you for everyone for being in here, and thank you for the chat. You all are great. Thank you for being here, and all those that are lurking and all that will be listening later. The Fantasy Tavern is something we do once every month, and I believe next time we're going to be looking at Superman. So dust up a little bit on your original lore of Superman, and have a great day. Have a great day, and be certain to read, and then read some more.